In this module, we're going to discuss the monitoring and reporting using the Endpoint Security Administration within EPO. In this module, we will learn how to access, navigate, and interpret the dashboards for ENS. We will describe the situations where customized dashboards are useful. We will generate and interpret queries and reports that has to do with ENS. And we will look at the threat event detail for our events. As a reminder, dashboards that exist in EPO are collections of monitors. The monitors condense information about your environment into an easily understood graph or chart. Usually related monitors are grouped together on a specific dashboard. For example, the EPO summary dashboard contains these predefined monitors: the repository package status, systems per top-level group, quick system search, malware detection history, and the McAfee links. The dashboard actions that are available to you require certain appropriate permissions having to do with the permission sets in EPO. Just understand that all of the McAfee dashboards, the only options that you have are the ability to create a new one, duplicate one, import, and export. You cannot edit any of the McAfee dashboards. The custom dashboards that you can create, these you can edit, you can add a monitor, you can change the dashboard visibility, and you can delete, along with the other new duplicate, import, and export. The ENS dashboards are pre-configured dashboards that are read-only. When you add the ENS extension, it will automatically add all of these dashboards. You'll see that they all start off with the name of Endpoint Security and a colon. I want to point out the one that says Compliance Status. When you go and you look at the compliance status, the criteria that we use for compliant is a criteria that cannot be changed. The AM Core content compliance is based on the age of the AM Core DAT. If the DAT is less than 7 days old, it is considered compliant. If it's greater than or equal to 7 days old, it's non-compliant. Note, the DAT age is not related to when the system is updated, but when the DAT was released. So you may actually have, where you'll see a lot of machines, that their compliance status will be that they are out of compliance, and that all has to do with, has it actually been updated and has it reported back to your EPO server and told you that the DAT is updated. We had a feature that had to do with VirusScan Enterprise, and the most common question asked is, the DAT version compliance for VirusScan was within a certain amount of versions of the repository DAT. Does that exist in Endpoint Security? The answer is no. The Endpoint Security determines the compliance based on the age of the DAT, not the DAT version. In this screen, you'll see a list of the default ENS dashboards that exist with the ENS extension once it's installed. In this screen, we have a continuation of all the listed ENS dashboards that are added by default to your EPO server. In this slide, we show you an example of the ENS dashboard where the name has to do with the environmental health. It shows you the currently enabled technologies that you have enabled having to do with the policies and the modules that are installed on your systems. In this slide, we have another example of an ENS dashboard. This one is showing us our installation status. So we have a status of all the products and the versions and the hotfixes that have been installed on our systems. Working with the dashboards, some of our guidelines are that you have to have the appropriate permissions to manage the dashboards. If you're unable to do this, then you need to contact whoever is your EPO administrator so that you have the correct permissions. You can assign default monitors to your custom dashboards. You can use the category drop-down list to filter the monitors that you see on the menu bar. I can create custom monitors and assign them to custom dashboards. If I add a custom URL viewer monitor that has Adobe Flash content or ActiveX, that content might not make the portions of the EPO menus inaccessible. Do not enter the URL of the EPO server. You are already in the EPO server. You can change the default refresh interval if necessary, and it is recommended that you do that. And you can resize and move the monitors around to make a more efficient use of the screen space of your particular dashboard. And the queries that you have available in EPO, always remember these are actionable objects that can display in charts or tables. And you can export the results into a CSV file, an XML file, an HTML, or a PDF. These are also objects that you can use as dashboard monitors. You can run these queries manually, or you can have it where you have a scheduled query to run, and you can have it automatically be emailed to you on a regular basis. You can also use queries to set a tag on a particular system. Always remember, when you have the queries, we have actually 3 types, but you do have the private queries, which those queries are the ones that exist only in your private group. You can create different folders or groups that actually contain all of your different queries. These queries are only available to you. The public queries exist in a group called shared groups, and you can also create little groups under the shared groups. And these queries are available to anyone who has permissions to use the public queries. Just understand, administrators and users with appropriate permissions can always make their own queries private. We also have the McAfee groups that contains all of the other queries that are added automatically whenever you add an extension. In this screen, you'll see that we have a list of predefined queries that has to do with the endpoint security. You can also create your own custom queries within this interface. Just always remember, you can delete your own queries, you can duplicate them, you can edit a custom query, you can export queries, you can import queries, you can move a custom query to a different group, you can create a new report from a selection of queries, you can run a query, you can schedule the query, and you can also view the SQL syntax that has to do with the transact SQL statements of the different query. If you want to create a query from scratch, we have a tool called the Query Builder. In the Query Builder, you have 4 major steps. Step 1 is where you actually create and select what is the feature group and the result type. This is, what do I want to query? Do I want to query events, client events, you name it. The second step is, how do you want it to be displayed? Do you want it to be a chart? Do you want it to be a bubble chart, a table chart? What type of chart do you want? How do you want it to look? The third step is one of the most important steps of the whole query. This is your real select statement. What is the data you want to see? So this is where you select what is the column of the data. This is what you'll be able to look at if you drill down into your query. And the fourth step is applying the filters. This is where you can get rid of the noise. I don't want to see it if it contains this, but I want to see it if it only contains this information. Now, EPO has a really nice feature in it that has to do with reporting. And you can go into the Reports tab within the Queries and Reports, and you can actually create a really nice report and make it look very professional by having all kinds of things like special items in the footer, a special image, page breaks, and a lot of that types of features. You could also go in and select more than one query and select the actions, new report from selection, and it will automatically set this up for you, and you can get started that way. The workflow of creating a report is, first off, you decide you want to create a new report, or I could edit an existing report. I can also view the last run of a report output. I can assign the reports to a specific group, and I can run the reports and examine the different results. The best thing is that you can automate the report generation with a specific server task. And I can export and import the reports for consistency, and I can delete reports that I no longer need. The different elements that you have in creating a report is the fact that you can have images, page breaks, query charts, text that you actually want to add to the report, and query tables. You can drag and drop any of these options over into your report layout, and you can also position them as to what you want. You can combine them in any order, and you can duplicate them as needed. In working with your reports, you can be very creative with the headers and the footers of your report to make it very, very professional looking. You can use the default server setting, or you can go in and customize whatever you want for this specific report. You can change the logo from the McAfee logo to your company logo. You can put the date and time. You can have it put the page numbers. You can even have your name show up on the report. And you can add some custom text to the report, such as internal only or for your eyes only, whatever you want it to do. You can also change the page size and the orientation of your reports. You can leave it where it is, this letter size. You can change it to legal, and there's some other types of options that you can do. And you can even change it from landscape to portrait. Otherwise, just leave it the defaults that are set on this server setting. The thread event log is a tool in EPO that has all of the events that exist in your SQL database. So, for example, this will have all of the events for the ENS product, plus if you had any virus scan events, or if you had any data loss prevention events, or I'm trying to think of another product. But anyway, you'll have all of your events in this thread event log. So one of the things I want you to think about is you have some customization that you can do in this thread event log, that you can customize and create some little filters to actually look at specific events having to do with the product that you want, or the type of event category, or events description, or anything like that, or like what is the action taken. You can actually click on the particular event and look at the detail. So one of the other things that I want you to always think about with this is look at the details, and when we go back to thinking about those columns that you want in your query, you look at what are the columns that are the threat event details that gives me the actual information that I want. And then that makes more sense that when you go back to your queries, you can make sure you select those particular columns. Other options that you have with the event is choosing the columns, deleting, exporting the table, purging the events, and you can purge them based on a certain age time. You can select show related systems, show source systems, and show target systems. Check your understanding. True or false? McAfee supplied dashboards are fully editable. Is this true or is this false? The answer is false. You cannot edit the McAfee supplied dashboards, and you cannot edit this McAfee supplied queries. They are all read only. Check your understanding. True or false? Private queries exist in the user's private query group list and are only available to the creator. Is this true or is this false? If you answered true, you are correct. So in review of the monitoring and reporting, the key points we want you to think about are the ENS specific dashboards are available after we successfully deploy the ENS product. The pre-configured default dashboards are always read-only. You can duplicate them, and then you can edit the copy that you created. Optionally, you can create your own custom dashboard. Custom dashboards are always fully editable. Queries are configurable objects that retrieve and display data from the database. The results of the queries are displayed in charts or tables. Any query's results can be exported into a variety of formats, any of which can be downloaded or sent as an attachment to an email message. The queries can be used as your dashboard monitors, and reports can contain a number of elements held within a basic format. You can create, edit, and manage reports that combine multiple queries and other elements into a detailed PDF document. Also, be sure and use the thread event log to view and manage your events.